Good morning, everyone. I am Mark Iorio. I'm your host today for Rainmaker's Roundup. It is Wednesday morning, and I am here today with Bill Sheehy and John Molinelli of Sheehy and Molinelli. Welcome.
Hey.
Good to see you. Thanks, Bill.
See you.
John.
Hey, thanks, Mark.
Great to have you. Great to have
Thanks
you.
for having us.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Tell us a little bit about how you both got into the financial planning business, the world of financial planning. Why don't we start with you, Bill, since you're the elder statesman.
A little bit older.
Yeah.
Well, I went to Ryder, and in the absence of knowing what else to do, I majored in risk management. My father was in the life insurance business. Got out, went in the Army, got drafted. When I got back, I went to work for New York Life. And by 1980, things had just gotten too narrow of a field. I wanted to expand. I wanted to do more. So I left. My dad and I left to set up Sheehy Associates in Lawrenceville. Mm-hmm. And I had been a chartered life underwriter. I decided I wanted to become a certified financial planner. So by '83, we had our own financial planning business,
Sure.
which I've maintained since then. And John joined me in 2013. And he can tell you where he's
Great.
from.
Well, thank you.
How did you get into this?
How did I get into
Yeah, how
this?
did you get into this?
I went to TC&J. I got a degree in finance. I always knew I wanted a career where I could really help people. And
Sure.
I think dealing with people's money and their retirement planning, I think is a great way to really be able to help people. So I started my career as a small broker-dealer in Princeton who allowed me to get my license, but only offered a narrow range of proprietary products. And ultimately I realized to really be a financial planner, you have to be able to fit the client's needs fit the products around the client's needs as opposed to fit the client's needs into the products you have. So ultimately I needed to expand my product offerings, so I went and joined a large wirehouse. That expanded my product offering, and I was able to act as a financial planner. But being in a large wirehouse, you deal with a lot of bureaucracy of the corporate structure, and there is a good amount of, they have their certain products that they recommend to clients. And I really realized that to be a true financial planner, you have to be independent. You can't have any bias towards the products that you offer. And that's when I realized that this is really what I want to do, and I joined Bill in 2013 to be able to do that.
You're more of you're kind of a family business in a sense, from the standpoint that what we talked about outside before the show started was what motivates you to help other people in the world of financial planning. You're a small firm, right? You're not gigantic, right? But you have that ability to go in and sit down and talk to people about their future. And doesn't that give you a great thrill?
Well, I get up in the morning. I'm 70 years old, and I continue to work for several more years. As you probably understand, John is taking over my business.
Sure.
We're full partners. Name's over the door.
Yeah.
And but I get a thrill out of seeing people fulfill their lifestyle goals.
Mm-hmm.
They've worked, they've accumulated. There's really two phases of someone's retirement planning: the accumulation, where they're accumulating money in order to get to a point where they can define their lifestyle. But the other side of it is once you reach retirement, you oftentimes have 20, 25, sometimes 30 years, left in the tank. Hopefully, exactly. Well, my parents did, and you have to figure out how to make that money last, and more importantly, how to fulfill your goals, not only for yourself, your spouse, how to deal with the threats of long-term care, running out of your money, how to invest that money. It's a very different skill set than accumulating. And for people who have money, what to do with their charitable, how are they going to distribute this money in a way that feels good? Is it through charity, through their heirs? How are you going to do that? And it's very interesting. Every case is different. Everyone's a challenge, and so it's a thrilling business.
Bill, when you were John's age, right?
Yeah.
Did you have the same feeling And do you currently have this feeling, John, where you're going in and helping people, for the future? A lot of financial planning companies, let's say, out there, what are they looking for? They're looking for the churn. They're looking to make money. But what you're telling me, what you're telling the audience, is that's not what motivates you two. You're motivated by helping people grow their wealth.
That's exactly. I mean, it's interesting that when we deal with people who are very skilled, highly skilled in their profession, they're very intelligent, but when it comes to this financial planning, retirement planning, it's amazing that there's such a disconnect for some people between, what they do and in their working life and what, when it comes to actually planning and planning for their future. So they come in and very confused. They don't know if they have enough money. They don't know if they're doing the right thing. They sit with us, and by spending an hour and a half really going over their whole situation, putting things into perspective for them, the sense of relief that they have when they get up and leave, and the confidence that they have really is what inspires me, what motivates me, is that we're really helping these people. We're giving them a lot of peace of mind, I guess you could say, with certain people, and that's what is motivating.
We'll talk about this for a while, and probably even after the break, but what makes Sheehy and Molinelli different from the competitors out there, the people that are in kind of the same space that you two are in? I mean, the company is in. What's different?
You want us to talk about it now?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Well, first of all, it's an ensemble of two people that have two different skill sets. John is very, very technologically sophisticated, and when we meet with a client, he's in front of our software, and we'll talk about the software and the value it adds, and he's operating that, and I'm sitting back, and since I've been doing this for a long time, I have the ability to seek what people are trying to achieve, asking the questions that they're not even asking themselves.
Sure.
And trying to increase the level of conversation to make it as broad and encompassing as it could possibly be. When you say you're going to travel, what does that mean? Does that mean going to Yellowstone National Park, or does it mean going to India? What you want to help your children? Does that mean helping their education? Does that mean a 529? Does that mean helping with a down payment on a house? What does that mean? You want to give good charity? Does that mean you're going to set up a charitable trust and take advantage of the tax advantages of that? What do those mean? Let's really flush that out in real time with real software, and let's program it. Let's look at it over a period of time so we know exactly what we can and that's sort of different from the routine going in and crunching numbers and talking about indexes and fees and performance, and we beat this index. It's not the operative variable.
Yeah, that's great. That's good. Right. Good answer. Thank you. Right after the break, John, we're going to talk to you about what you think. When Bill said you're a technology specialist, I want to hear more about that. So right back after the break from our local sponsors. Welcome back to Rainmaker's Roundup. I am your host, Mark Iorio, and I am here with Bill Sheehy and John Molinelli from Sheehy and Molinelli. Before the break, we were talking about what makes you different, right? And you were talking about this line of questioning that you go through, and we're going to get to how you get your clients, and this is all about what I've told you before, which is how does Sheehy and Molinelli go out and do things that are different from everyone else in a very competitive business. But you said that John is really a technologist, right? Tell me about that. Why are you different?
Okay, so Bill was mentioning that the dynamic that we have is what makes us different. I'm using the technology, but Bill's asking the questions, and the technology is really just a tool for us. I mean, we bring to our clients some of the most cutting edge technology that's available in the business, but without asking the right questions, without gathering the right information, that technology is really useless. So the big part of this is making sure that we're getting all the right information from the clients. But once we get that information, being able to put it into our system and I guess increase the level of communication we have is key. I mean, the financial plans that were built by planners as recently as 5 years ago, it was the technology has allowed it to become so much more efficient now. I mean, people would come in with piles of different statements, and we'd have so many different holdings we'd have to account for, and then we would spend what could be hours or days putting in all this information into a system, trying to build an asset allocation for somebody. Then we would have to, gather some of the answers to these questions. We would put it into a different system that would have a Monte Carlo simulation, and ultimately what would be generated would be a 65-page report that someone would take with them that is static in time based on all these variables today. Mm-hmm. This is your probability of success. We can make some recommendations on how to improve that probability of success going forward that they can take and under advisement and actually execute. But a lot of times people went, and that information is old in 6 months. If we have a big change in the market or a change in what they're doing, that's a useless report.
Sure.
Now, with the technology we have, we, first of all, are able to gather all the information on all their investments by them simply typing in their username and password for the various accounts they have out there, their 401k, their outside investments that we don't even manage. We could pull everything in a matter of minutes. So we see everything that would have taken days to accomplish, we were able to see in minutes.
In real time. Yeah.
Now, exactly, and it's constantly updating. Once we have that information, as this changes in the market, we're seeing those changes, and those changes are being built into our planning software, which is building our probability of success based on all these different variables that we got answers from those questions.
So the output is only as good as the input, right?
Exactly.
So when you're asking these questions, you're doing a lot of probing, right? You're
Absolutely.
asking a lot of really, you said earlier, are you going, if you're going to take a trip, are you going to Yellowstone, are you going to India? You've got to do a lot of thinking when it comes to that, because you're asking me to look to the future, right? And answer questions that are sometimes not easy to answer.
Exactly.
So how do you do that? I mean, how do you do? You're doing that. You're doing what I'm doing, which is
right.
probing. It's a probing interview.
Well,
right?
The software guides us through it. So if I could just elaborate on that for a second, because John, talked about the software. The word that I want to use is interactive in real time. Someone walks into our office for the first time. We don't know them at all. Most of the time, and in the past, the financial planner would start talking about themselves. Look at how wonderful we are, our credentials, blah, blah, blah. We're going to do this for you.
Sure.
That's not the way we handle it. When someone comes into our office in the first interview, we tell them, we'll tell you about us down the road, but that's not the operative variable. That's not where you're not going to come with us or not come with us because of who we are, how many letters we have after our name, okay? You're going to come because we're going to help you solve our problem. So let's roll up our sleeves right now. John goes to the computer, and we start going through a risk appraisal questionnaire, asking them theoretical questions to monitor whether or not, how risky how much risk they're willing to take. So we know what kind of portfolio to design. Then we get right into the information, and hopefully they bring information with them. We upload that. Once we have that uploaded, we can start doing the plan. When the plan is finished, they walk out of there with a plan. It may take 2 hours in these interviews. We block out very large segments of time for our clients, so that we're not rushed. No one's leaving. No one's saying we have to, 4 people in line. We have to wait for it. We block out time. So when they leave, they have a plan. When they come back, we don't have to start all over. We have already, if they've enter the information that they want on their other accounts outside of accounts they may have with us into a system. We now have this on a piece of what's called aggregation software, where they can see all of their accounts, whether it's outside of LPL or not. And we can, their 401k, all of their accounts for both, husband and wife. We can then look at this and start from, this is what we have, this is where we're going, this is your risk appraisal. Only then and there do we begin to talk about the investments or the portfolio or the strategy or what we're going to do. That's in a second or third interview.
Got it.
And so every follow-up interview, we don't have to start from scratch. We already know how much money they have. We already know all these. So it's a matter of implementation and monitoring the plan. And we're not monitoring the plan relative to some index. We're monitoring a plan based on what you told us were your objectives on your lifestyle. That's all we care about.
Yeah.
How do we add value? Financial planning can be a commodity unless you can add value. And that value is human life.
I mean, the bottom line, I think, is the technology has increased our ability to communicate with our clients and the value of the plan that we're able to deliver. And ongoing monitoring of their investments. We could have a big downward swing in the market, and people can pull up their home screen with us and go in and see exactly whether or not they're still on track based on everything that we talked about. Everything's updated live throughout the day. Your probability of success is changing as the market's changing, as they're putting more money in, taking money out. Everything's always updated, so we're always in sync.
Well, when you look at it, it's kind of like what Covey talks about in his second quadrant. Planning is very difficult because people look at life in crisis mode. Whatever's happening today is the reaction that they come up with. But this plan that you're talking about is sticking to a goal, sticking to an effort and a vision. And we agree that there's millions of competitors out there for what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Millions, right?
Oh,
Thousands, tens of thousands.
In Mercer County.
Probably.
Yeah.
How do you get new clients? I mean, how do you go out besides promoting things like we're doing today, or like you might do in your own daily lives? How do you go out and get clients and tell them and explain to them what we just talked about, that you're different because of the collaboration between Bill and John, the two of you, plus your software and the questioning, that line of questioning that's so critical. How do you go out and get clients?
Well, first of all, most of our clients come from referrals,
Okay.
family members, people close to them, and most of our new assets come from our own clients that we capture.
And that's built on reputation.
More actions. The other sources, we also do 401ks. We manage about 125 families of their assets, but we also have 25 401k corporate qualified, profit sharing plan.
Sure.
Corporate clients.
Yeah.
So those participants retire, okay, and we oftentimes, bring them in as they retire, do a plan for them, and we pick up clients in that manner. We also do 2 or 3 seminars, but they're not public seminars. Our seminar technique is to invite our existing clients, existing network, Rotarians, people that we know, people in our sphere of influence, to interesting seminars. They don't have to be on financial planning, okay? They can be on a wide variety of topics.
Yeah.
Some are and some aren't.
Yeah.
And we ask them to bring a friend. And and we spend maybe a couple minutes talking about who we are and why. It's pretty obvious that we're there to promote our business, but in a very indirect way. Bring a nice meal and we promote it. So it's never open to the public. That really doesn't work. It's not very effective.
Yeah.
So we do seminars. The 401k. We have a Facebook presence, a LinkedIn presence.
Okay.
But our website is very, very proactive, and so finding new clients, quite frankly, has not been a big challenge. We have lots of new clients that we deal with, and then there are people who move away, they pass on, what have you. So it's always, the clientele is always very fluid. But John, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah,
he's also in a great group. Yeah, tell him about that.
Yeah, I also I'm a part of a business networking group. Business Networking International is we meet once a week. There's one profession, one person from each profession. There's 34 different professionals in that group that we refer business back and forth. I think the big the key is just being active, being present in the community, being visible. You never know when someone's going to have a need that needs to be addressed, and as long as we're out there on LinkedIn, on Facebook, having the online presence, being at these networking meetings, being visible to the community, having a good reputation with our clients, people will come to us. It has been effective. So just doing everything, just being active.
It's some of the, doing some of the little things that are a little bit different are important. For example, we always have someone answering the phone. You've known me for 27 years.
Yeah.
You don't dial my number and get a recording.
Yeah, right.
Someone answers the phone.
Yeah.
Someone answers the phone in 1 or 2 rings. And if I'm there, I take your call.
Yeah.
Okay? So that's one of the, if you send us an email, I take in a lot of emails a day, obviously. They're all being screened. They're 80-90% of them have already been answered by the time I get to see them.
Yeah.
Because I have 2 staff people that work behind that. And the next spring we're going to be hiring another financial planner.
That's important. That's important because of
this idea that I call this guy and he never returned my call and I do it in an email. That doesn't happen with us, and that's important.
We're going to take a quick
Sure.
break here. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. Welcome back to Rainmaker's Roundup. I'm your host, Mark Iorio. We're here with Bill Sheehy and John Molinelli of Sheehy and Molinelli, and we were just talking about the technology. What have you seen over the last 27, 28? How many years?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it different now, John? Isn't it different now than it was before? We were talking about your presence on Facebook, your presence on LinkedIn, the website.
I guess I could talk on that. I mean, these days I feel like if you're going to do business with somebody to see that is a legitimate business, that person is credible, you have to have an online presence. You have to be able to Google that person and find something. You have to be able to go to their website and see that they not only have a website, but they have a legitimate website with professionally done pictures and good information. They have to have a Facebook page. They have to have a LinkedIn page. If you don't have all of these things happening behind the scenes, people don't. You have something to hide. You're not being transparent these days. That's what people feel, and we have to address that. We have to be in front of it. So I mean, you can find us anywhere. We have nothing to hide. Everything is right out there. You go to our Facebook, go to our website, Google us. And that's key these days because that's just the way people think.
Yeah.
We have to be in front of it.
You've had to adapt over the last couple of decades.
I spent a lot of time learning the software, but it has paid off once you make the investment.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the financial planning software
Sure.
so much. Once it's integrated, and they're all integrated, the amount of time that we used to spend doing the infrastructure, figuring out what people have and how they're invested, all of that used to take vast amounts of time.
Yeah.
That can be done in a fraction of the time today, freeing up more time to do what's important. And what's important are these operative variables, the things that are important about the lifestyle.
It's people, young, old, middle-aged, whatever, have a difficult time getting started in this business for some reason. A lot of people are afraid. When you talk about mutual funds, they're afraid that they don't understand mutual funds. They're talking about the stock market. They're not really interested in this. They're scared to death of the stock market. How do you get started? What advice do you give, John, Bill, advice to people who are just getting started in this business, or they're afraid to take the first step? What do you do first?
I think people first need to not be afraid to take advice and listen to a professional. I think there's been a lot of negativity in the press, especially after 2008. You have Bernie Madoff. You have a lot of negativity for some reason in there that gives some advisors a bad name. Most advisors are doing the right thing. Most advisors are doing what Bill and I are doing. So
Sure.
You shouldn't be afraid to reach out to someone who knows what they're doing to get some good advice. I mean, so step one is don't be afraid to take advice and ask some questions. And finally, you have to go in and listen and understand. You have if you're younger, you have a very long time to get there, and you need to take some steps in order to make sure that you're going to have a successful retirement.
Yeah.
And I'll let you continue.
Well, you talked earlier about the risk profile, right?
Yes, To answer your question, first of all, there's oftentimes a misconception that people have. They think they're going to come in and see John and myself. We're going to charge them a fee because we identify ourselves as fee-based financial planners. Let me
Right.
explain that. Our fee is a percentage of the assets they invest with us, period. There's no other fee.
Okay.
We don't charge an hourly fee.
Okay.
We don't charge a front-end load, a back-end load, a 12B1 charge. All of these things that people, write horror stories about, front-end annuities and what have you.
Yeah.
It's all fee-based.
Yeah.
And that the only way we make money is if we capture assets and manage them for people.
Yeah.
So someone who walks into our office, we're working for free.
So you'll do a plan for
Absolutely,
someone?
a total plan, just on the expectation that we will eventually capture their assets. And in
That's
many
great.
cases, it might be none at all, might be very small asset basis, but that's fine. We try and treat everyone, in an egalitarian manner, relatively evenly.
Mhm.
We give as much time as needed to every client. Which brings me to one other point, if I can expand upon. All clients fit into one of three categories. They either have too little money,
Mhm.
okay,
Mhm.
in which we need to really make it very clear in no uncertain terms that they need to save a lot more money.
Mhm.
They need to perhaps have more equity in their portfolio.
Mhm.
They need to have more discipline in their budget.
Mhm.
They need to cut back.
Mhm.
And we're pretty forthright about that. It's not going to do anybody any favor to allow themselves to fool themselves to think that they're going to retire based on what they told us were their objectives.
Right.
And then find out they're 65 or 68 or whatever years old, and they only have a fraction of what they were saving for.
Yeah.
The second kind of client is, I know this may sound strange to you and your audience, is there are an awful lot of people who have too much money. And you say, well, how could that be? When I say they
We
do.
need to meet those
We need to
people.
meet those people. Well,
Good clients.
they're oftentimes untethered from how much money they actually have. They're meeting their lifestyle and they have a lot of assets, and they could be doing much more with it to help them enjoy the money while they're here.
Makes sense.
Ultimately,
Yeah.
help their children, help their grandchildren, help the education, help charity, do something with that money that might give them more pleasure while they're here on earth.
Mhm.
Okay, they can't take it with them.
Yeah.
And sometimes you get so focused on accumulating money that you don't realize it. Along the way, you've accumulated enough, you've inherited enough, and it's now time to rethink. The third type are the people who just get it just right, and they're the most fun to work with, and that we're monitoring their situation, and we're coming in and we're making sure that their needs are fulfilled.
Yeah.
So those are the operative variables.
Okay. John, tell us a little bit about a success story that you've had over the last couple of years since you've been working with Bill. Someone who's you really feel like you did a great job for, and it's really gratifying.
I guess one story that really sticks out that is we had a client come in who came in with her husband, and he had a very serious illness,
Mhm.
and she wanted to know if she had enough money to retire early,
Mhm.
to stay at home to take care of him, considering that the amount of medical expenses were so high, and it was medical expenses were so high, and it was to continue working. It wasn't making a lot of sense for her. So ultimately, she was asking the question: with the assets she had, with the income she was going to get from Social Security, could she retire to stay home to take care of her husband? And we spent the time with her, worked through all the variables, and ultimately we told her she could. And at the end of that meeting, she cried a little, gave us a hug, and
Wow.
walked out. And that's why we do what we do.
That's great.
A lot of stories about $1 million portfolios where we're doing all kinds of crazy stuff, but something like that is really what motivates us to do what
Wow,
we do.
that's great.
Yeah.
I'd like to get to that question with you, but we've come to the end of our program, and the two of you have been fantastic. Thank you so much.
And thank you.
You're
Can
welcome.
I add one plug for you? Congratulations on getting the Charlie Bain Award for Rotary.
Oh,
You
thanks,
deserve
Bill.
it, my friend.
Thank you very
deserve
much.
it.
John, thank you.
Thanks,
That was
Bill.
great. Could you gentlemen, or Bill, look into the camera here and just tell the audience how to get in touch with Sheehy and Molinelli?
We're on Quaker Ridge Road in Hamilton. My dear friend is my landlord, Bill Rue. We're in that building. I'm in the very back. Our phone number is 609-586-9100. And our web presence is sheehywealth.com. And you can find us on Facebook. You can find us on LinkedIn. You can Google us, and we're not hard to find. And we answer our phone.
Great. This has been a great. I told you it'd fly by. Right?
It's incredible.
Right? It's flown by. Next week on Rainmaker's Roundup, we'll see you again at 10:30 on Wednesday morning. We're looking forward to it. Have a great week.